From Lalate headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons Lalate.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons Lalate as your $3.55 trillion recon passes. In this fourth stimulus check updated 2021, the latest details from Washington. Breaking news today as the debt ceiling limit solved overnight. And the infrastructure, roads and bridges likely to go for a vote today, if not at the time of this recording, and likely to fail. Because guess what? They're protecting your recon, yes. In a major twist of events last night, and also today, the President, Pelosi, and Schumer met to ensure that your recon's protected, and the White House actually co-signing on not particularly directly, but indirectly, for the progressives' attempt to protect the recon today by killing the roads and bridges. It's deliciousness in this recording. We'll go over cluster number one's checks passed, cluster number two's checks passed in that recon on Saturday, cluster number three's checks passed. Schumer's office telling one viewer, in fact, it's Donnie's wife, you've met Donnie on this channel, telling Schumer's wife overnight that he's inserting a monthly stimulus check provision. We have the same thing coming in from AOC, Lalate, and Pelosi signaling to the American people, I want things added and things are getting added, and those are the things that Americans want. And those things that the Democrats have said they want are those monthly IRS stimulus checks. Meantime, Ron Wyden trying to insert an extension of unemployment benefits. And then the latest details as Jalapal goes after two moderate Democrats. Oh, it's deliciousness. I got all the dramatics, all the major developing details, all the meetings, everything that happened behind closed doors, all that and more. As your $3.5 trillion recon passes, it's time to get to it. And this is Afternoons Lalate. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day across the planet. Hope you are good wherever you are. Late last night, the House and Senate met, and guess what? A Senate deal to avert a government shutdown hatched. Yeah, the debt ceiling limit deal done late last night. In fact, you heard the details of it first on this channel before it happened. I recorded it yesterday on Evenings LA. So the debt ceiling limit done. They're going to call for a vote today. Meantime, a vote today as well. Dramatics overnight and several meetings. In this recording, we'll go over the $3.5 trillion recon passed on a Saturday. It's huge. Cluster number one's checks passed. Cluster number two's checks passed. And cluster number three's checks passed. Meantime, Democratic senators, Democratic House members tell viewers of this channel in the last 5 days, including Schumer's office yesterday to Donnie's wife, that a IRS stimulus check is going in that recon as well. We'll cut over to the recon, and who is protecting the recon? It's the progressives. What they're doing today and why the president actually gave them a wink, a nod, to do what they're doing today, which is anticipation of a voting against the infrastructure, the roads and bridges. It's huge. I have all the details. And I'll go over why Jalapal went after one moderate Democrat while Pelosi went after other moderate Democrats, and why this is all incredible great news for you. It's a big afternoon's broadcast, and let's get to it. But first, subscribe, because this is LA, America's only 24-hour day, 7 days a week financial news channel in America. Live in the morning, taped in the afternoon with a whole slate of shows. And guess what? Coming up next is Evenings LA. It will be the latest update of the day with developing details. That show may likely air and get taped right after the vote on the roads and bridges. So stay tuned for that show as well. But first, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this channel. This channel was the only place on the planet in print media, business media, financial, broadcast, or YouTube channels to even record that a $3.5 trillion recon passed on Saturday night. You wouldn't know it anywhere else. You wouldn't know all the backdoor deals about the senators and House members in the last 3 days with meetings last night, several of them, a new article published today, and Jalapal's response to it, if it wasn't for me and one other print media. So subscribe, like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Let's get to all the exciting details, but first, that passage. Last Saturday, evening, in the House of Representatives budget subcommittee, they passed a $3.5 trillion recon, your recon, with cluster number 1, 2, and 3 passed. Let's go over each of the clusters starting right now. But remember, the recon is all checks for you, all national checks for all walks of life, and has nothing to be COVID related. Cluster number 1 got in there with hazard pay, checks for seniors, checks for children, $51,000 of MSC, checks for home repairs, and also college students' bikes and cars. Let's get to the details. First with hazard pay. They got hazard pay in there a lifetime by modifying the earned income tax credit, an old tax code, to expand the broaden the eligibility and increase the amount of money. This is a big win for this channel, which was the biggest advocacy source on the planet for hazard pay, with no less than 500 videos in 2020. Number 2, they got in there up to $4,000 a year to care for an elderly person. This is huge. And on the flip side, up to $4,000 a year to care for a young child. They got in there college grants passed, included those for direct to the university, direct to the college student, and making the Pell Grant tax-free. On the other side, they got other sums of money in there as well. Repairs the home in a low-income household, in a low-income community, got it in there, passed. But what about $51,000 of monthly stimulus checks? Oh boy, they got it in there, passed. They got the CTC, the child tax credit, extended lifetime. How is this going to work? It's incredible. They're going to broaden the eligibility so it includes parents who are not biological and pay up to $300 every month, every year, up to 18 years per child, that the household is a low-income household. What about bikes, cars, and trucks? They got them in there. All electric, all U.S. auto manufacturer. Up to 15% for an electric bike, $7,500 for a car for personal use, a little bit more for business use, and a little bit more for a truck for business use. And there you go. In a second, we're going to go to cluster number 2 passed, cluster number 3 passed. But first, let's turn over to third stimulus for just a blink of an eye. In advance of a potential shutdown from the federal government, which is now no longer happening, Treasury was very smart last week to send out the last $13 billion for rent. Treasury is happy to provide the state and local governments with these additional resources to support Americans in need of rental assistance. All right, let's cut to cluster number 2's checks. I think I'm ready for some. Are you ready? Passed on a Saturday night. These second clusters are deliciousness because they are really huge. Number 1 is paid sick leave, family and medical, and this is huge. What is family leave? You have to stay home because your spouse is pregnant. You have to stay at home because your son broke his leg. How much does it pay? Up to $1,700 a week for every week that you endure it, and that is if you made $75,000 or more per year. Let's split it in half. $35,000 a year, $800 a week. Let's split it in half again. $15,000 a year, $400 a week. Wow. Check number 2, childcare programs got in there, checks. Household checks, Medicare benefits for seniors, checks, like dental checks, vision checks, hearing care checks. More about that in cluster number 3. And then weatherizing your home, they got checks in there as well. This is if you live in an area that has tornadoes or hurricanes or just a lot of moderate Democrats. You got to weatherize the home then. They got universal pre-kindergarten in there. And they got tuition-free community college. Definitely need it because a lot of people want to take that foreign language class. Have you heard about it? It's called Los Angeles. I just don't speak their language. Do you speak their language? They just talk really funny. Every sentence has kale salad in it. So now you can take that foreign language class totally free at your local community college called Los Angeles. And there we go. In a second, we're going to go to cluster number 3's checks. But what's Congress doing? Where is Congress? What are they doing? Well, later in the final 15 minutes of this video, I'll be going over the several meetings that happened last night. Number 1, the president meeting with Pelosi, Schumer, and agreeing on what to do with today's vote. Number 2, last night at the Senate meeting about the debt ceiling limit. Number 3, the progressives meeting again about the vote today about the roads and bridges. What's going on? Here's what's going on is that throughout yesterday, which was Wednesday, the president had a half dozen meetings with moderate Democrats in the White House. Asked them, what do you think about the recon? Sorry, I don't hear you. Can you speak up? I don't hear you. And the moderate Democrats would not give him a response. And he was not particularly happy with that. So what was his response to the moderate Democrats? Well, if you don't want to pass the recon, if you don't want to pass the roads and bridges, you just want to pass things, then maybe I should just pass the White House over to the Republicans. Yeah, he did say that. He did say that. What happened by the end of yesterday? By the end of yesterday, the president met with Pelosi and Schumer, and the agreement was the following, that Pelosi will call the roads and bridges for a vote today. It will happen. But Pelosi is aligned with the progressives, and so is the president. During a press secretary conference yesterday, the president and the press secretary were basically asked, what are they thinking about the progressives trying to stop the roads and bridges? And the president basically gave a wink to them that it gives added pressure upon the moderate Democrats. Let's see what the moderate Democrats did yesterday for the White House, for Pelosi and Schumer. Number one, the moderate Democrats made Pelosi angry about the debt ceiling limit, first trying to block it. Ultimately, they got the debt ceiling limit done. Number two, the moderates got the president upset because they wouldn't give an answer about the roads and bridges. Number three, the moderates called the progressives a small fraction of, sort of fringe politicians. Oh boy. So the moderates are sort of going after everyone. Yeah. And so what is going to happen today? Basically, what they're going to do today is going to be covered in the final 15 minutes of this video. I'll show you what's going on. But let's cut to cluster number 3's checks, and they are incredible. They got passed as well. Those cluster number 3 checks are free school meals for all checks, tax rate checks, cheaper prescription medication checks, checks for free internet, checks for elections, checks for farmers, checks for clean energy. Then they got in there checks for workers, like independent contractors, checks for seniors, like dental, vision, and hearing care. Now, cluster number 3's checks has 2 sets of checks, which are really great. And the president likes them, and I like them, because they're instant savings to you. First, cheaper prescription medication. So, for example, let's say you go to the pharmacy today, take out $2 $20 bills to pay for something. Then this becomes law. The next time you go in to refill, you only have to take out one $20 bill. Then on the other side, they're going to make free internet available across the entire country, city, counties, and states. All you have to do is say, hey, I live here. What's the username and password? The username is No Goth Gang. The password is Jalapal 411. There you go. In the second half of this video, we'll be going over the voting process today. I'll be going over the infrastructure vote. I'll be going over what the progressives are doing to protect your recon. I'll go over what the president did yesterday to protect the recon. I'll go over what Pelosi did yesterday to protect the recon. We'll be going over more about that third stimulus money and a little bit about fifth stimulus. And now that the debt ceiling limit's over, I'll be covering that just a little briefly. And then we'll be covering those monthly IRS stimulus checks. But first, here's a preview of the second half about those monthly IRS stimulus checks. This week, the news has continued to be great across the board, with Democratic senators and Democratic House members both confirming to this channel, again, that they're inserting a monthly IRS stimulus check in there in the fourth stimulus recon. Chuck Schumer, who you know, of course, is the leader of the Senate, the majority leader of the Senate, his staff told Donnie's wife, you're going to meet Donnie in a second, yesterday, that he's inserting a monthly stimulus check provision. Meantime, this week we've had the same confirmation from Jalapal, AOC, and Omar's office that they're doing the same as well. Your advocacy needs to continue. This is great, and this is consistent with what we've been at so far, because what they did on Saturday that they passed was a markup of what would be a bill. Pelosi Saturday night said, you know what, if you want to add more stuff in, we're adding more stuff in, because this is just the markup. We can have amendments, and that's referring to the House. The senators can have amendments as well. AOC Omar, Pelosi's office, several times the viewers of this channel, confirming that they will make an amendment to add a monthly stimulus check in there. Then on the Senate side, the Senate Democrats, like Sanders' office this week, on top of all the comments over the previous weeks, saying they will make an amendment to add a stimulus check provision in there. Ron Wyden publicly made an announcement that he'll add an amendment in there, again on the Senate side, to extend unemployment benefits. So everyone has your back. Progressives, Pelosi, the president, Schumer, everyone. Well, except the moderate Democrats. More about those moderate Democrats in a second. We'll be covering them in just a second as an Afternoons LA continues. But first, here is a little bit about the community page. If you need help with rent, utilities, or food, or internet, here's a little bit about them, and I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LA Late Daily for the excitement of the new LA Late live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LA Late at 9 a.m. Home LA Late returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LA Late at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LA Late. And the excitement continues right now on Afternoons LA. On Evenings LA yesterday, I reported that a debt ceiling limit would be hatched in the Senate overnight. It was. So the debt ceiling limit is going for a quick vote today, and that will be done. So you can check one of 3 bills off your list. The debt ceiling limit deal hatched on a Wednesday night, as I predicted yesterday, meaning that today, Thursday, they will vote on the debt ceiling limit on the House and Senate side. It will be done to avert a Thursday shutdown. Over to infrastructure. I'll have the latest details of what happened with the negotiations between the president and Pelosi and also Jalapal overnight for the debt ceiling limit. Will it pass today? I'll have all the details for you. I'll be going over what this means for the recon and why, for the first time in a few days, we see the best position ever for your recon since Saturday. It's all incredible great news. We'll be cutting over to the third stimulus for just a blink of an eye and this stimulus. And with that, I want you to subscribe. A 400,000 subscribers YouTube record. You're going to see a lot of breaking, developing details throughout the day. So join me next on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock. It will have the latest update taped hours after the show that'll show you what happened with the infrastructure vote today and what's happening tomorrow. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Let's cut all these details one at a time, starting right now. First, the debt ceiling limit deal hatched last night. On Evenings LA, I had told you that the debt ceiling limit was going to be hatched in a late night deal. It was, meaning that they'll finalize it by a vote in House and Senate today, and that will be done. One, your benefit checks will arrive on time. Number two, they always were going to. And if you're on Social Security or railroad benefits or an armed service member, also it had nothing to do with the funding of the recon. And finally, it had nothing to do with the timeline of the recon. All right, let's turn over now to the dramatics about today's vote. Today's vote for the roads and bridges is the result of negotiations about a month ago between Speaker Pelosi and a group called the Goth Gang, led by Representative Gothenheimer, the moderate Democrats. Their negotiations at the time about a month ago said to Pelosi, "You're not calling the vote on our roads and bridges, call the vote." So she made the deal a month ago. She would call the vote today. That vote will happen today. In a statement overnight, Pelosi confirmed that the vote will happen today. But even though that the vote will be happening today, it's not going to pass. In advance of this recording, I believe that the vote is going to fail. And guess who wants it to fail? The president. Yes, let's go over what's going on. Here's the dramatics. Number one, the passage of the roads and bridges, or the non-passage of the roads and bridges, doesn't directly impact your recon, but it sends a very clear message, a very big victory for the recon if the roads and bridges fails today. This is why. Let me show you all the dramatics that happened overnight today and the day before and put them together so you understand what's going on. The moderate Democrats, the Goth Gang, who want the roads and bridges to pass today, are trying to paint the progressive wing of the Democratic Party as fringe, and their recon as fringe, as really it's not sort of the core of the Democratic Party. No, not the case. And Representative Representative Gothenheimer yesterday called the progressives a small fraction. That was number one. Number two, the progressives came out fuming back at him, saying, "We're not a small fraction, you're the small fraction. We have 60 members. If you miss 3 Democrats, your infrastructure fails. You're not going to miss 3, you're going to miss 60 because we are such a dominant part of the House majority for Democrats. 60 Democrat progressives have been polled and said they're voting against it today. Number 2, the progressives are aligned with Pelosi. Pelosi, in a way, is a progressive. Her closest friend in the House is Omar, one of the leading progressives, and she's very aligned with AOC and Jalapal. Number 3, the moderates were pissing off a lot of people yesterday, and today they did it even worse. Let me tell you why. First of all, they're calling their battles in the wrong places. Yesterday, the moderates emerged from a meeting with Pelosi about the debt ceiling limit, which was about to get done anyway, and basically reneged on a promise to Pelosi about the debt ceiling limit. She said, "What's with these people?" And she actually had a quote that basically tarred and feathered them. She said, "These members," referring to the moderates, "have all voted for this last week. So they're concerned about how this may look, debt ceiling limit, in an advertisement. It's already in the advertisement." Yeah, as the article said, Pelosi tore into the moderate Democrats on the issue of the debt ceiling limit. So they were picking battles over stuff that was about to be passed, these moderate Democrats. Elsewhere, the president met with the moderate Democrats, several of them, several senators, in the White House over the last few days. And when asking them to give their position on the recon, he got dead silence. He didn't get an opposition, he got dead silence. At one opportunity, when he got them to really speak, they said, "Well, we're not against the recon. We just don't know about it just yet." He said, "Well, we got to do it now. We're not waiting around for you." And the moderate Democrats came out of that meeting not giving the president a clear signal about what they're doing with the recon. So what did the president do? The president gave a wink to the progressives to vote down the roads and bridges today. The progressives over the last week have been telling the president they're going to vote down the roads and bridges. And during a press conference yesterday, the press secretary said she has no problem with it. Basically, the articles that ran out were that the president likes that the progressives in the House, AOC, Jalapal, Omar, Pelosi, voting down the roads and bridges today because it puts pressure on the moderates to come to case with the roads and bridges. Bernie Sanders says, "Let's make it clear. This is one of the most significant pieces of legislation, the roads and bridges, but it doesn't need to be done today." Then Pelosi says, "We need to do this right now." The comments that came in overnight were the following: that we made a deal and we need to hammer it together. I think that's good drama about the things, but isolating people at the situation is helpful. That they're saying it's sending a very good message to isolate moderate Democrats who are really not coming to the plate and isolate them in such a public way with a vote down of the roads and bridges is working. Ultimately, it will be moderates who will suffer, not progressives. We will lose moderates if we're running on a record that's not attractive to voters, says Matt Bennett, part of the centrist Third Way. The press secretary said members of the Progressive Caucus want to have an understanding of the path forward on the reconciliation budget bill. They think it's a historic package. So the takeaway was that, number one, the White House loves the progressives voting down the roads and bridges today because it's one of the best ways to push pressure on the moderate Democrats. Number two, the White House, the moderate, the progressives all say, if you go back to your jurisdictions and you say, you know what, which do you want, fix the roads or put some checks in your wallet? The people are going to say, I want checks in my wallet. There's not enough, and that's why the messaging is very clear. So what's going to happen? They're going to vote down the roads and bridges today, and that will put pressure to do it the right way. As Liz Warren said in a comment overnight, she said, why are we even having this conversation? The moderates already agreed to do all this several months ago. I hope to see our progressives in the House stay strong, says Liz Warren. They know that we all reached this deal months ago, a deal where we would pass both of them together. Liz Warren, the voice of reason. And then came this equation. You know, every time I read something, I think I'm just sort of surprised by it. The moderate Democrats, after pissing off the president, after pissing off the Pelosi, after pissing off a lot of people, guess what one of the moderate Democrats did overnight? He wrote an article basically sort of saying, I don't know what to do with the recon, but pass my roads and bridges right away. Jalapal says that article by that guy, that moderate Democrat overnight, really, if you didn't have 60 votes against the roads and bridges today, you're going to have 80 votes now because of that article he published in a news article overnight. This is why we're not voting for the bipartisan bill until we have a reconciliation bill passed, said Jalapal last night to press in a press conference. After that statement by that moderate Democrat, we're probably going to have even more people willing to vote no. She says absolutely correct. And why is this happening? My impression is the moderate Democrats are trying to use this platform as a way to show their popularity. And instead, it's turning against them. It's showing their isolation. And boy, I've never been so happy for you, because now we have the president protecting your recon like never before. We have Pelosi protecting your recon, Schumer protecting your recon, the press secretary protecting your recon, moderate Democrats protecting the recon, and today, potentially 60 plus votes against the roads and bridges showing we're all protecting your recon. Wow. All right, let's cut to those monthly IRS stimulus checks with more details about that starting right now. As we go into the final 15 minutes of this video, boy, this one is exciting. Over the last 8 weeks, over 1,000 viewers of this channel have been told that there will be an IRS monthly stimulus check provision in the fourth stimulus package. Well, guess what? They were told that before the weekend, and now they've been told that since the passage of the $3.5 trillion recon last Saturday. This is huge. In this week alone, people have been told by AOC Omar, Jalapal, and even Chuck Schumer's office that the IRS stimulus check is in there after they advocated. Advocacy started on this channel 8 weeks ago when I told viewers to pick up the phone and advocate for the inclusion of a stimulus check. And WR did. He picked up the phone, called Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware, advocated for the inclusion of a stimulus check. And Chris Coons' office said yes, he's putting a monthly stimulus check in there. But it all changed about 3 weeks ago as this channel started to evolve very quickly and grow very quickly. And I told you a series of exclusives, which have now been all confirmed correct. Number one, I told you that the House would actually be riding the recon. They did. Number two, I told you that the House would vote first on the recon. They are. Number three, I told you that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is the one that's really protecting your recon. They are, whether it's the senators or the House members. And I told you Bernie Sanders is very critical to the equation. He is. In the month of July, Bernie Sanders is the guy who got your $3.5 trillion recon prize. And 3 weeks ago, he told press that as the budget chairman on the Senate side, because we got a Senate and a House budget chairman, I like to get out amongst the people when I'm doing a recon. I said, if you listen to those words, that means he wants to hear from you. And I said, pick up the phone and advocate. And Brother Joshua picked up the phone and advocated. Lynn Glenn picked up the phone, and Margaret picked up the phone and advocated. And Sanders' office told all of them that there's a stimulus check in there monthly. Let's look and see what advocacy looks like. The face of advocacy is very clear in this country, but the advocacy that came from this channel was so impressive in the last few days. Here we go. First, Margaret wrote, honestly, I am the woman on the phone when I'll start crying when I explain everything I've been through. Another viewer wrote in comments on this channel, I've lost my husband. How am I supposed to have 10 surgeries since his passing? I'm raising 2 teenage daughters. The hardship I'm enduring on SSDI, it's not enough. And that's what Brother Joshua did. 2020 volunteered to the community page, got viewers fortunes of money for rent and utilities. He picked up the phone and advocated for you. Called Bernie Sanders' office 3 weeks ago, advocated for the inclusion of stimulus check for himself, for his church, and for his family. And Sanders' office said the same thing they said this week, then 3 weeks ago, that Sanders will be including a monthly stimulus check provision of $1,400 to $1,000 to $1,400, 3 to 6 months. There you go. But Sanders' office also sent a very clear message. He needs to hear your support. Well, we got our support. One after another, viewers of this channel started picking up the phone and advocating. And you met Donnie's wife minutes ago early in this video. Well, Donnie himself was one of the first to follow my lead after Brother Joshua. Donnie picked up the phone and advocated. And what did Donnie say? I'm going to show you a series of screen grabs written on either social media or also on the comments of this channel. This was written by Donnie. I called Bernie Sanders' office, and his secretary said, yes, they're doing a fourth stimulus check. And I said, this is what I need. My city needs it. I need to progress. I need it for my water. I need it for everything. I told her. And she said, yes, they're doing a fourth stimulus check. Longtime viewer Hurricane Tina, who's been with me since day one, she picked up the phone and called Bernie Sanders' office. This is what she wrote. I called Sanders' office, and they said, and I got through, and they said they're putting a forced stimulus check in there. The messages kept on coming in. Carolyn wrote, I called Bernie Sanders' office and talked to his secretary and said we needed help, and people are losing their homes and what they got, and she said Bernie's putting a forced stimulus check in there. The messages kept on coming in with Yaya, who picked up the phone, called Ron Wyden's office, and they said they're putting in SS200 in there as well. And one after another, a viewer kept on calling, and then Will showed us the implications of calling multiple offices. He called Bernie, he called Chuck, and he called Liz Warren. He writes, all three of them confirmed the inclusion of stimulus checks. Now listen, since even Will's message, we've gotten confirmation now again from Bernie, Chuck Schumer, and Liz Warren on a daily basis from this channel, from viewers of this channel. They said they're going to be putting it in it. They said Senator Warren wants $1,400 to $2,000, 4 to 6 months. Lorica, longtime viewer, writes the following. I got Bob Casey's office on the phone, and they're in negotiations for the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check. At that point, this channel had over 1,000 viewers of this channel getting confirmation from Senate Democrats for the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check. Coons, Sanders, Warren, Schumer, Casey, and Wyden telling viewers of this channel they're putting it in there. So I said pick up the phone and call over to the House side as well. AOC and Jalapal, Omar, and Pelosi, and viewers started to do that. Paul calling over to AOC, and she assured me they would be in the bill. $1,000 a month after the $1,000 a month after the first month of 2000, 6 to 12 months. Janice writing, I called every congressman, and Jalapal said that they're putting a forced stimulus check in there. Then we have Mark. You remember $51,000 Mark? He picked up the phone and calling over, and they said there would be a forced stimulus check in there, $1,000 after the first month of 2000, 6 to 12 months. That's Pelosi's office to Mark. Over the next few days, the messages kept on coming on in, one after another, from viewers calling over to Capitol Hill. And where are we right now with that then? As we sit right today, we have over 1,000 viewers told by nearly a dozen Democratic senators and House members that they're inserting a provision into the recon of a stimulus check. The verb tense is forward, future tense, will be, is inserted, going to be. It's all good news for us because guess what? That's exactly what Pelosi said Saturday. That's exactly what she said this week. That's also what the president said. When they passed a $3.5 trillion recon out of the budget committee on Saturday, that's not the whole bill. In fact, it's not even a bill. It's sort of like an envelope where the bill would go into. You remember my prop? Here it is. It's sort of like an envelope, and then they have room to put other stuff in there. And on Saturday night, Pelosi said, if you have other stuff, tell me. I'll put the other stuff in there. This is the person who actually says she's putting your stimulus checks in there. Ron Wyden, yesterday saying, I want to put stuff in there, extension of unemployment benefits. The president saying, if you want to put stuff in there, tell me. Pelosi saying the same thing, tell me. Schumer saying, tell me. And now we have Democratic members on both the Senate and House side telling viewers since the passage on Saturday, they are still putting it in there. Yes, you need to advocate over the finish line. All right, so let's turn over just for a brief moment to third stimulus before we come back to what I anticipate and my predictions for today and tomorrow. Third stimulus has that additional huge cash infusion of $13 billion coming to your cities and counties and states for rent. We're going to go over some rent, utilities, mortgage assistance starting right now. Get a pen, paper, cell phone ready. When we talk about the rent, it's gone up nearly 200%, utilities 300%, and SNAP 400% in just a few weeks. Remember $51,000 Mark? Here he is. I just saw him. How are you, Mark? There he is. I know him by my graphic. There he is, $51,000 Mark. Well, Mark was among the people who got $25,000 for rent a month ago. Now the rent is going to $40,000 for viewers of this channel. His brother-in-law, while Mark got $6,000 for utilities, his brother-in-law got 3 times that amount since then. Then we talk about SNAP. The money has now gone from this to nearly $21,000 from Mark's brother-in-law. So get that pen, paper, cell phone ready. I'm going to go over how you get this big money right now. What's important to understand is I'm going to show you 6 places to reach out to. Reach out to all 6. They have different pots of money. Next, list the keywords I say in this video. Number 3, lean on the nonprofits. All right, here are the 6 places you're going to reach out to. Your city hall, your city house authority. Your county hall, your county house authority. And your state hall and your state house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Let's go over the 6 places again. City hall, city house authority. County hall, county house authority. State hall and state housing authority. There you go. All right, now, members, yes, nightly at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, you get the newsletter. And in the newsletter is that statement from Treasury about the $13 billion for rent. I want you to read that letter before you reach out to them, so your city, counties, and states, so you know what the letter's about. Ask them, do you have a waiting list? I want to get on the waiting list. You don't have a waiting list? Can I call you back to see if you have the money tomorrow? Next is the utilities. I want you to reach out to all utility companies. If you've got 5, reach out to all 5. 5 of the nonprofits. Wow, what a success story. The nonprofits were the feature of nearly 500 videos on this channel in fall and early this year called Purple. And I brought them back in the mix 2 weeks ago, unbeknownst to whether they're actually still paying. They are. 2 viewers getting refrigerators. 1 viewer getting a furnace and a new window fixed. Who are the nonprofits? Here are the 5 nonprofits. United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charity, St. Vincent de Paul. They're featured also in the newsletter for members every night. Now, what's important to understand is that the nonprofits, first, pay money in a different way than the federal government. They're not the federal government. They have their own eligibility. They do rent, utilities, mortgages, and things like that. But the second thing is that they pay for other sums of money that the White House doesn't pay for, such as clothing sometimes small appliances, sometimes helping homeless people get into shelters. They are absolutely incredible. Here again are the 5 nonprofits: United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities, and St. Vincent de Paul. All right, let's cut now to SNAP. As we go into October, you know what's happening in October. Your benefits are going up and automatically an average of 25% lifetime nationwide. So if you had a step up before, it stepped down in September. You got a letter that saying step down. You get another letter that says you're going up automatically. And that second letter is coming in the mail. Next, unemployment benefits. From your state, if you're overpaid unemployment benefits due to computer error, it's coming back to you. And then finally, the one from IRS. If you pay taxes on the 2020 tax return for unemployment benefits, you're getting that refund, a check back to you. Margaret got it, Cod got it, Michael got it. Average payment is about $1,000 to $2,200. You can do an irs.gov transcript search to track it. And Margaret got it, Cod got it, Michael got it. If you got any sums of money from this channel, post in live chat, because when you do, you inspire other people. Lastly, let's cut over to membership. It's very important to become a member because there's a lot of money available for you under third stimulus. Members are delivered daily from me to you at about 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, the Lalate newsletter. It comes from the Lalate alert system and also the YouTube alert system for members. It features now also the nonprofits and also that Treasury statement. I want you to get as much money as you can. Here's the promise that I want you to make to yourself. If you're an Art Sullivan or Nisi or Lynn Glenn who got money before, I want you to get more money. And if you've never got money as before, I want you to get more money. I want you to get money as far as you can into 2022. Why? Because rent and utilities may not be continued under forced stimulus. That's the first thing. Number 2 is the nonprofits are not getting a lot of calls just yet. It's late summer, early fall. It's not yet cold out in a lot of parts of the country. So they're not getting flooded with the calls about heating oil bills and things like that. Make the call, get as much money as you can right now. Consider becoming a member right now. And with that, we go into the final minutes of what I anticipate happening in the next 24 hours. This is my impression of the situation going into this evening's LA, and please do not miss that show. Number 1, I believe that as we look at the situation right now, the moderate Democrats made a series of calculated bad moves for themselves. What were moderate Democrats trying to do? Trying to get the roads and bridges passed today on a Thursday. Not going to be passed. Number 2, they were trying to be very evasive about what they want to do with the recon. And by being evasive with that situation, they were evasive to the number 1 guy in the Democratic Party, the President of the United States. You don't be evasive to the President. I mean, you just don't do that. And you don't do it time and time again. He's not going to like it. And he's not a young kid. And you have a meeting with him and you keep on doing that. He's not going to like it. So what is he going to do? As a former legislator, he's going to use whatever pressure he can to have you come on board. And the pressure is Progressives, our people that are doing our recon. He's using Pelosi. The president's using Pelosi. He's using Chuck Schumer. He's using Liz Warren. He's using Bernie Sanders, and he's using Jalapa Omar, AOC, and all the progressives, all 60 of them in the House, to apply the pressure. Applying the pressure is the following: one, having the roads and bridges fail today. Because Pelosi, while she should probably have not have made that deal to call the vote on the roads and bridges on this particular day, she had to get things sort of moving forward. She made the deal to call the vote. She didn't make the deal to pass it, and she'll call the vote and it'll fail. And I think the failing of the roads and bridges will send a very clear message to the moderate Democrats who want the roads and bridges that there was a deal. As Liz Warren, as the voice of reason, says, you made a deal. You made a deal 2 months ago. You're going to do 2 bodies of legislation, not 1 body of legislation. It's sort of like you're going in to the cafeteria and you order 2 things, and then you walk out and you say, I'm only paying for 1. You order 2. Well, just give me 1. No, you made a deal for 2. You keep the deal for 2. And what is the scope of the coverage of the comments from Jalapa Omar and Warren today is that the more that people keep on repeating that the moderates made a deal for 2 bills and are not keeping their promise, while Pelosi's keeping her promise to call the vote, while the progressives are keeping their promise to pass your recon, the moderate Democrats are looking like a bunch of people who don't keep promises. And that isolation is putting them up like, they're... they just been arrested, with the walk of people, with the tape behind them. It just sort of says, hey, these are the people who don't keep promises. And as you and I have said all along, and as the progressives said beautifully overnight, if you go back to your jurisdiction, if you go back to your city, county, and state, and you said, you sent me to Congress to help you, and what did I get you? I'm fixing the pothole over there. Oh, but what about our check? But I got the pothole fixed. Well, what about our check? I got the pothole fixed. It doesn't work that way. People need their relief before a pothole relief. And the fact that the pothole was a pothole on Wednesday, was a pothole on Tuesday, and can still be a pothole on Friday is perfectly fine with most Americans if they get their money. If Americans get their money, get their recon, we can live with the pothole being there on Wednesday and being there on Friday. And that was the message that Bernie Sanders said, where he said, yeah, the infrastructure is a great bill, but it doesn't need to be done today. The pothole will be there for another week. We need to get the recon passed. And guess what? All the major number 1 players in the Democratic Party have your back. I don't think I've ever been able to say that on this channel. Pelosi, Schumer, the president, and even, let's end with House Democrat Caucus Chair Hakeem Jeffries. He says we're supposed to be doing 2 bodies of legislation, not 1. And he says, and ends with my words. Now we're figuring out the pathway to get both of these very important bills over the finish line. And they will go over the finish line. As we go into a big evening, join me tonight on Evenings LA because the big updates are expected to come in. It's expected to be a very different video than even this one because the situation's changing by the hour. On Friday, stay with me as well because the news cycle is changing by the hour on the hour with major developing details. I have literally 45 pages of quotes between the last 48 hours from Pelosi, the president, the Goth gang, about the situation, trying to get as much as I can into a particular video and compress it for you so that's clear and accurate and up to date. And I got more for you tonight as well on Evenings LA. Brand new elements. So with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers is a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. See me next on Evenings LA. I don't want you to miss that show. Stay informed, stay focused, keep on smiling as the $3.5 trillion recon passed on Saturday, and now those Democrats want to insert that IRS stimulus check.